This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life. I'm your host, Olivia Flanagan, and welcome to our first episode of the season. We hope you had an awesome summer. It absolutely flew by. I can't believe it is September already. We had an action-packed filled last few weekends in Uxbridge and Port Perry. We had Tyler Joe Miller live at the Port Perry Fair with the Steve Waters Band, which was an absolute blast. I was fortunate enough to MC that show, which was so much fun. We also had the Uxbridge Fair that just happened as well, so we hope you had an awesome summer. But happy back to school season for all the kiddos and parents if you're celebrating that too. Getting back to the routine, lunches, morning drop-offs, all that fun stuff. And on today's episode, we're going to chat about that as well. But before we get into today's episode, we of course got our Uxbridge Scugog Life event update that we're going to bring you every episode this season, talking about events happening up here in Port Perry, Uxbridge area. So the Winding Roads Music Festival is back Saturday, September 20th with headliner JoJo Mason. We've also got the Steve Waters Band, Julia Middleton, and Daybreak Moonshine performing at this awesome event. It is all hosted by Adamson System Engineering, and this event is all in support of Big Brothers Big Sisters of North Durham Region, which is such an awesome event. Tickets are $100, and it is a 19+ event, but it should be a fantastic night. We've also got a gala coming up for the CMHA Durham called A Night for the Stars. It's happening at the Harmony Events Center on Friday, November 7th. Tickets are available on the CMHA Durham website, and of course, all proceeds are going to support their services, which is a great way to support CMHA Durham and everything they do for the community. Of course, the Oshawa General season is back. The Oshawa General's home opener is September 21st at 6:05. They have got an action-packed, fun-filled game for you. And the Sunday after that, is the Tim O'Reilly jersey retirement game as well. So we've got lots happening at the Gens as well. And over the last few weeks, we've got an awesome announcement coming to the Durham region. We have got an NLL team. The Firewolves are coming to the Tribute Community Center, so that should be awesome for Durham region. And those are going to be some awesome games to check out as well. So we thank you for joining us on today's episode. We're so excited to be back here in the studio, talking to the community, learning all about events and other things happening here in Port Perry and Uxbridge. But on today's episode, as I said before, we are talking about back to school. So we've got Emily from the DRPS, Constable Emily Mitchell, and she is talking about road safety, because obviously phones and students walking back to school and distracted driving in school buses, back to school season just brings so many dangers on the road. So Emily's here to talk about all of that, also social media safety, back to school. And we also have Alec from CMHA Durham talking about everything they did over the summer. It sounds like they had a fun-filled summer as well. And also talking about how September is Recovery Month and kind of how recovery looks different for everybody, and about what services CMHA Durham provides to help people going through recovery. I'm Olivia Flanagan, your host of Uxbridge Scugog Life, and we are so excited to be back here in the studio for episode 1 of the season. We will see you after the break with Emily.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Van Bilse, and my next guest is Kristen Meyer-Creamer, a person who spent most of her adult life in the world of volunteerism. Join us and learn the story behind this incredible person right here on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life, and for our first segment today, we are joined with Emily from the DRPS talking all about back to school safety. Emily, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So to start off with this first segment, we're going to talk all about road safety because obviously parents are dropping their kids off at school buses are all around, and students are walking to school. So to kind of start off, can you talk about the biggest concerns when it comes to road safety and back to school?
Yeah, during this time, we do anticipate there being an increased pedestrian traffic. You're going to have parents walking kids to school. You're going to have some older kids that are going to be walking by themselves. While we do urge everybody to use the appointed crosswalks and cross where there are crossing guards, children can be unpredictable. And so for our drivers in the area, just be extra mindful, really adhere to the speed limits that are in that area. We have some areas that are only during school hours. So as we're coming out of the summer months, those things are starting to kick back up. So just be extra mindful of what the speed limits are, of the fact that there are more pedestrians and people could potentially be closer to the roadway and such. Put the phone down. If you have AirPods or anything in your ears, take them out and just be extra vigilant.
For sure. Now, what are some common, would you say, violations when it comes to drivers maybe in those school zones?
Yeah, so we did have our traffic unit out doing our back to school safety. It's called In the Zone, as well as we had divisionally our officers were out specifically focusing on school areas. A common thing that we see all the time is speeding through those areas. We are aware that everybody's in a rush, everyone's got somewhere to be, especially as we're getting back into the routine of school and parents are going through the kiss and rides. Just take the extra time, be extra slow. Make sure you're looking both ways before going through any crosswalks or any areas that have a crossing guard.
For sure. Now, of course, school buses are kind of back on the roads more often. There's lots of rules about the stop signs and stuff on school buses. So can you talk a little bit about the school bus rules?
Yeah. So anytime a school bus has a stop sign coming out, the flashing lights, and the arm extending, there are going to be children getting on and off that bus. So everyone is to stop. Leave ample room for those kids to safely get off, and the entire time that those the lights are going, the arm is extended, you are to remain stopped so that the children are able to get to a place of safety. We did just have on Thursday, September 4th, there was a female driver out in Clarington who was charged with failing to stop, where she then tried to go around the school bus during that time that kids were getting on and off of the bus. So it is a very dangerous time. That is probably when our kids are most vulnerable, especially kids that are taking the school transportation. So please be extra mindful. The school buses are there. If you need to leave earlier in terms to get to where you need to be, do so, because there are going to be those delays now that we have not seen throughout the summer.
For sure. Now, when it comes to the students kind of commuting to school, when they're walking or maybe getting off the bus, what are some tips that parents should teach, or just like reminders that parents should have for their kids as they're heading to school?
Yeah, anytime that you're near a roadway or going to be crossing the road, to come to a full stop, really check, make sure that you're looking both directions. And if you're able to, if it is a crosswalk area that there maybe isn't a crossing guard, if there is a car there, really look at the car, sometimes making that eye contact with the driver and just recognizing like I see you and you see me, and make sure it's safe for yourself to cross.
Perfect. Now, when it comes to kind of parents picking up their students, I know, especially even at my high school, there's a lot of talk about parking, where you're parking to pick up your kids. What are some things drivers should remember when they're picking up their kids if they're not going into the parking lots?
Yeah, so really adhere to the rules that have been given out by your school. Everywhere is different. The kiss and rides differ for each school, and if there's before and after care. So it varies depending on the school. So really just follow up with your school or your school board as to what procedures they prefer you to follow, and be aware that any no parking or no stopping areas that are clearly marked on the road are still in effect.
For sure. Now, students, well, the weather's getting a bit cooler outside. It's still somewhat warm. Students might ride their bike to school. What should drivers and bikers remember about bike lanes?
Yeah, so we do have some designated bike lanes throughout the region in areas where there's not a cyclist is to be treated like a vehicle on the road. Again, for your drivers, just be extra mindful, especially when it is kids that are on bikes. They may be up on the sidewalk and then coming back onto the road. So just be extra mindful of the increased pedestrian and cycling traffic.
Okay. Now, how can people kind of report concerns if they see unsafe driving, passing school buses, or anything like that in school areas?
Yeah, so any of those can be reported online. We do have a road watch kind of safety area on our website that can be visited, and people can report there. If there is something that is more of an emergent situation, if somebody has been injured or struck, please call 911.
Perfect. Now, kind of going back to speeding, maybe just high level, what are some of the fines or consequences of speeding in school zones? No.
I'm not going to know them off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
I can look them up for you.
No, that's okay. Don't worry. Now, cell phones are a huge, obviously, issue with driving nowadays. Obviously, they should be apparent and people shouldn't use their phones and drive, but what are some of the biggest issues when it comes to using a cell phone and distracted driving?
Yeah. So it's already against the Highway Traffic Act to be using a cell phone while you're driving, but it's extremely dangerous, especially in these school zones where you're going to have that increased pedestrian traffic, because even a glance down at your phone or at anything in your vehicle is taking your eyes off of the road. And again, as kids can be somewhat unpredictable, and if they step out on the roadway in that time frame that you're looking, your reaction is going to be significantly delayed, which can cause a huge safety risk.
For sure. And also I feel like also watching for kids on their phones, they don't really know, they're just texting on the phone, hey, what do you want to do at recess today? So obviously cell phones are a big distractor, but thank you so much for giving us all these tips on back to school road safety. As always, just remember, kids are unpredictable, as you said, and just watch the road and look both ways before you cross. That's the thing you learn as a kid, and it's something you always have to remember. Well, we're going to be back with Emily in a minute to talk more about back to school safety, but thank you for giving us all those tips now.
Thank you.
We'll see you after the break.
If you're looking for straightforward recipes that are surefire crowd pleasers and really delicious, I hope you'll tune in to Season 5 of my show, Paula Roy's Favorite Foods, on Rogers TV. There's everything from mouth-watering salads to delicious make-ahead meals, lots of baking, even some pickles, and I'm sure there's something for everyone in this season's lineup. I'll offer some ideas to help make your time in the kitchen more effective and fun, and perhaps you'll even watch it with your whole family.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life. We are joined with Emily once again from the DRPS to talk more about back to school safety, less about the road safety and more just about safety and social media and all those things that come with back to school. So thanks for joining us again. To kind of start off, do you want to talk a little bit about walking to and from school? Whenever parents decide that their kids are kind of old enough to maybe walk to school by themselves, obviously there are some safety tips that come into play with that. So you want to maybe talk a little bit about what conversations parents should have with their kids about walking to school alone?
Yeah, so for the kid, especially to know the route that they're going to be taking, if the parent is able to do that route a couple of times with the child, to make sure they become familiar. If you know people along the route that that live there, or there's places like, say, a fire station or a police station, places that if that kid in an emergency needed assistance could easily go to, even businesses that will be open during the school hours that the kid can then approach an adult if they were to need assistance, as well as creating just a check-in point, especially when the kid walks home. If the parent's not going to be home at that time, or there's going to be a delay in the parent coming home, having some sort of check-in system, especially if the kid doesn't have a cell phone, so either using a landline or a lot of like smart home devices now allow for a check-in, so the parent will know that the kid has arrived home safely.
For sure. It's so cool how technology is just
sometimes
it doesn't help, but sometimes it does. And just teaching about, I feel like stranger danger is also something you hear as a kid. If someone comes up and, like the old story, like, oh, hey kids, want some candy? Like, maybe that's not as used anymore, but like, what should parents kind of talk to their kids about if a stranger, say, approaches them picking up from school or walking home from school.
Yeah, so don't engage with anybody that you don't know. If they start to have a conversation with you, I think that's an opportunity for that kid to start looking for someone else that they know is a place of safety. So again, if there's a business or some homes along the street that you maybe know that are your neighbors, identifying those places that your kid can go to if they feel the need to. If you are approached by a stranger and they are talking to you and you don't know who they are, again, don't engage, create some distance. If you have a phone and are able to call police, then we urge them to do so.
For sure. And also just kind of walking to school, safety precautions, make sure you're teaching your kids. Look both ways, only cross at lights or crosswalks, and also crossing guards I feel like is a big one also that we didn't touch on in the last segment, but I feel like drivers, I always see on the roads, like, because you're supposed to wait for that second whistle to then proceed, right?
Yes.
I feel like that's a big thing that people also need to remember, because some people just, as soon as the kids cross, they just go, right? And then, but that second whistle is saying that they're good to go and it's safe to cross. Safe to proceed driving.
Yeah. I think just being always aware of your surroundings. Again, with technology, kids are listening to music to and from on their way to school. Even having one earpiece out of one ear allows for you to be more aware of your surroundings and what's going on.
Yeah, that's a really great point. But yeah, just teaching our kids basic safety things and doing a walk with the students is a really good idea. Now, kind of when it comes to back to school and after school childcare, I remember as a kid when I was like 12, my mom was like, you gotta go to a babysitting course because it just teaches you some really good safety tips and what to do if anyone approaches you or comes to your door or whatever. But when it comes to parents finding childcare maybe for after school or before school, is there any tips or anything you would say that parents should kind of think about when they're looking for childcare?
Yeah, so the schools are a great resource. A lot of schools have before and after care programs, and if they don't necessarily have one associated to you, they may have a list of references that they can provide. So that is an exceptional resource for parents to reach out to, as well as if you're looking for maybe somebody to more do of an at-home thing rather than an actual care center, try and find somebody with references, especially if it's a reference that you know. A lot of neighborhood chats and group chats can do that, and again with social media and stuff, there's lots of Facebook groups where people can provide information so that there's more of a commonality, and your kid may even know an older kid from the school that can come and do that for you.
For sure. Now also with back to school, I feel like students are using social media more, texting their friends, hey, what are we going to do at lunch today and stuff, and also conflicts at school and stuff happen a lot on social media outside of school and then are brought to school. What should kind of students remember and parents remember when it comes to letting their kids use social media and monitoring that?
Yeah, so a big suggestion is, especially with younger kids that have access to social media, is that the parent has access to that account and is able to see who they are engaging with. And for the children to just remember that anything you post online, even if you delete it, will always be online. Somebody will always be able to access that, and not to engage with any strangers that you don't know. We talk about stranger danger when you're out on the street, but it can happen online as well. So if you don't know somebody, I suggest making your accounts all private so that you're only adding your friends. Those are the only people that should have access to what you are posting. If somebody you don't know is trying to add you or trying to engage in conversation, to tell a parent.
For sure. And also, even just not in a safety term, but also just limiting social media usage while students are in school. Apple, if you have an iPhone, I don't know if it has on Androids, but they've also got a really cool thing where you can limit time on it. So you have to put in a password. So say you only have half an hour on social media a day because you got to make sure kids get their homework done too. So that's a really good tool on the phone as well. So yeah, back to school safety. Obviously, road safety is really important. Social media, that stuff. Another thing that I think is really important for students to remember, if you can walk home from school with a buddy, that's really important as well, because then buddy system, you're always safer in pairs. If anything happens, you can walk with your friends as well. Well, Emily, thank you so much for joining me today and talking all about back to school safety. I hope parents and students, maybe even teachers watching, maybe got some tips that they can share with the kids as well. All right, we will see you after the break. Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life. We are joined here for the first episode of the season with Alec from CMHA Durham. Alec, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us back on.
We're back after the summer season. You're here to talk about kind of all the things you did kind of over the summer and what's coming up, and also that September is Recovery Month. So maybe, do you want to start talking about what you did over the summer, what CMHA Durham was all up to this summer?
Absolutely, yeah. It's been a very busy summer. We did a large outdoor barbecue for our clients down at the Lakeside Park, which was lovely, a great event. And our Recovery College did a full semester of courses, things like journaling and managing anxiety, and a brand new course on Dungeons and Dragons, which was done for social connection, an opportunity for people to get together in kind of a fun environment. So it's been a really, really good summer.
Cool. Now, I know you have an event coming up this week. Next
we do.
week?
Well, on September 10th, so I guess by the time this comes out, we'll already be in the past.
Yes.
But we're having our Safety Expo, and that's going to be at Durham College. It's usually a really, really well-attended event. We're talking about wellness and safety for students. So we've got some amazing items that were generously donated by Lexicon Energy, and they're supporting the event and making sure that it's possible for us to do this, and giving us these incredible kits that we can give out to students to show them how to better manage their stress and anxiety, especially during the back to school season. That can be when it's really the toughest for students, especially new people just starting off in university or college, and that's why it's going to be great to be at Durham College and University of Ontario Tech for that.
Perfect. That sounds awesome. So now September is Recovery Month, and you're here to also talk about that today.
Yeah.
So maybe, do you want to start off talking a little bit about what CMHA Durham has been doing to support people in recovery over the summer?
Yeah, absolutely. So Recovery Month is a great opportunity for us to talk about what recovery means and what it looks like for different individuals. People have this idea around talking about addictions and recovery that it's kind of an on and or off kind of scenario, and it's also really a difficult conversation for people to have. So having a month dedicated to it is a tremendous opportunity for people to take time, talk about it, and learn about it as well.
For sure. Now, why would you say it's important to kind of recognize this month?
Absolutely, because like we were talking about around like being able to discuss, right? We want people to be able to talk about it with their loved ones, and we want people to know that the main themes around this Recovery Month are hope, compassion, and wellness. The idea that people have hope, that they can talk with each other, that there's definitely an opportunity for people to come out of what their difficulties, that they can recover. And that's why it's such an important topic for us to have to talk about.
Cool. And is every Recovery Month like a different theme, or is it just usually hope, compassion, and wellness?
It's different every year. I couldn't tell you what it was last year.
No, that's
but,
okay. I was just wondering.
No, absolutely. But 21% of Canadians at some point in their life will have an addiction. That is a staggering amount. That's almost a quarter of us. The majority of people, currently alcohol is kind of the largest thing that people have to deal with in terms of addictions. Even though it's legal, even though it's something that we have kind of socially accepted, it has a massive impact on our lives. So recovery is talking about how sometimes it's not just like a binary, not on or off, right? Recovery can be different stages. You can be managing your use. You can be trying to use safely. So if you find that the substance or addiction or whatever kind of thing you have, because addiction isn't necessarily just substances, it can also be processes, things like gaming or the internet, stuff like that. It is managing those uses in a way that you find safe and that minimizes the impact on the people in your life. So it could be reducing your drinking for your own health, and for your social kind of connections with other people around you, and that can have a tremendous impact both on your health and on the way you live your life.
For sure. Now, you kind of talked about it a little bit there, but there was one point that maybe dive into a bit more. What are some challenges that people kind of face in recovery? Oh,
well, yep, you got it, because I had mentioned stigma off the top, and stigma is huge because it's difficult to say that you have a problem, or that someone around you has a problem, or there's an issue you're dealing with in any kind of way. So with the whole month dedicated to it, we want people to feel comfortable saying, this is a problem for me. that can be an incredibly hard thing to say, and an incredibly hard thing to hear from someone as well. So it's really important that if someone comes to you and says that, your immediate kind of response is that you just like people tighten up, right? They either want to fix the problem immediately or they want to not talk about it.
For sure.
So instead, being open to just let people talk, to just listen and actively hear what they have to say and let them kind of talk about it. Because if someone's already talking about their addiction, about recovery, about how they think they can get better, they already have the answer. They just want someone a caring, compassionate person who can hear them discuss it.
For sure. And when you see online people who share their recovery stories, addiction recovery stories, they always say like the first step and the first big thing towards it is being able to say like, I do have an addiction and I want help.
Exactly. And that's being able to say that to someone who cares.
Yeah.
So being able to be that person, be someone that someone cares about enough to share that kind of information with is really wonderful.
For sure. And you also touched a little bit on it, talking about whether you're managing it or stuff, but what does recovery look like?
Absolutely, yeah. Recovery can be different things for different people. And it can be the idea of just like completely stopping everything, right? Or it could be going to counseling and discussing your use and how it affects you or the people around you. It could be looking at ways of kind of managing it so it's in a safer environment or at a safer time, depending on what it is. Or it could be just moderating. So it's a real personal kind of approach to everyone. And that's why being able to discuss it is so important, because people may see someone who has identified themselves as having an issue, and if they are still using, drinking, or any of those other kind of things, there can be a lot of judgment, a lot of process in that. So it's important to realize that everyone's on a different step along their recovery journey, and people try different paths, and different things work for different people. So being accepting of that and supporting people through that as well.
For sure. Now, what message does CMHA Durham have for people during Recovery Month?
Yeah, we want people to know that recovery isn't just possible, it's very probable. With the right kind of supports, with the right kind of community around people, and with the right kind of supports like CMHA Durham can provide, can do a lot to help people through the recovery process. Things like having supportive staff members to talk to, having education and skill services and stuff like that. Going to some place like CMHA Durham and being able to talk with staff about the services that they can receive greatly increases the possibility that someone can improve and succeed on their recovery journey.
For sure, and going a bit off that, what services do CMHA Durham provide for people trying to go through recovery?
Case management is a wonderful kind of option for people because you meet with a case manager who looks at your goals and helps you work through them at a pace and a way that works for you. So that could be helping people who are looking for detox, helping them find those kind of things in the community. But it could also be things like just kind of managing other aspects of life to kind of support their recovery journey. And that can be very, very personal for everyone. So it is not one size fits all with our case management. It's whatever the individual wants in terms of supports, and that's what we go out and provide them with.
Awesome. Well, Alec, thank you so much for joining me today and talking all about what CMHA Durham was up to this summer and also Recovery Month. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. We are so glad to be back after the summer break here at the studio with everything happening up here in Uxbridge. So thanks for watching this weekend of Uxbridge Scugog Life, and we'll see you next week.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.